After I slammed the door and went out in my revealing dress, he planned revenge when I got home. Hello, Reddit guys. My name is Emma and I am 35 years old. I had my own values and principles, and I would never go against them. But here I am, writing the story of how I cheated on my husband and destroyed my own life. Because that is what happened, my husband turned my life upside down after he found out what I did. His revenge was cold and strategic. So yeah, I cheated on my husband, and you see, cheating isn't always as invisible as everyone thinks. In my case, I made a habit out of it, and I became comfortable cheating on my husband. My husband, Ben, was also the same age as me, so 35 years old, and he worked as a software developer. Some of the time he used to work from home, and on other days he could go to his office. Meanwhile, I worked as a designer. I loved my job and everything about creativity. I hated the monotony because it felt like it would suck the creativity and the passion out of me. I was 25 years old when I first met Ben. He was a friend of mine first, and we used to go out a lot with other friends or just the two of us. We would talk about everything with each other, and I thought I was very lucky to marry my best friend. He had been there for me every time I needed him, and he was the person I relied on for everything. We stayed together for 5 years until he proposed. The day he proposed was the happiest day of my life. It felt like the world was mine. I had everything I needed. But you know how they say beautiful things don't last. We started having problems 3 years after we got married, because the monotony trapped our marriage, and it started feeling like we lost the sparkle we once had. Ben was very careful with me, and he was a very detail-oriented person. He noticed every detail about me, and he organized dates in a very romantic way. Ben always made me feel like I was special, like I was the only girl in the world. Sometimes he even bought dresses for me and asked me to wear them on our date nights. I thought he would never change, but he did. Also, if we talk about sex, Ben and I did it every night. We had this great passion between us that was really amazing. It made us feel so connected to each other. Since we got married, we never slept a night without each other. It felt like we needed each other more than anything else. He knew every part of my body, and he knew where to touch me and how I would feel. I'm sure you have heard a lot about girls acting like they are having an orgasm during sex, so faking an orgasm because it is very difficult for them to experience one, unlike men. But to me, it was not difficult because Ben made everything feel so easy. He made me experience an orgasm every time we did it. Well, almost every time. We both were creative even in sexual relationships. We liked to try different sex positions and make it in different places. And I don't mean just inside our home, but outside too. Ben would drive for hours just to have sex in a mountain in the middle of nowhere in nature. That's what I loved about us. We would never get boring or predictable because we would always try out new things, not just about sex, but also visiting new places and new restaurants. We loved trying out food. I can't remember how many restaurants we have visited just to try out and taste new and different foods. We were one of those couples that would never run out of words. There was always something to talk about between us. And every time something happened to us, we would run to each other. I would always tell him first. I still have the feeling that I want to talk about him and tell him everything about how I feel. But now I can't anymore. I lost him. I was too childish to keep him. We would always put each other first until the distance appeared between us. It all happened slowly and without us noticing anything. To be honest, he didn't notice anything because he started putting his job first, and he started neglecting me. Working from home is not always a good thing, because he would wake up with his laptop and sometimes he would fall asleep on his laptop. As the monotony became a part of us, the distance grew and we became colder with each other. Ben forgot how he used to make me happy, and he got lost in his job. There was this time when he had a lot of things going on at his job, and he had to work a lot more than he normally did, so he didn't have any more time to spend with me because his job stole all the time. So he would no more give me attention or organize dates for me. It all started here, but I will not say that it was Ben's fault that I cheated on him, because it wasn't. It's true he was working hard for our family and because he wanted to keep his job. You know how nowadays it's not very easy to get a good job. I didn't understand him or support him. Instead, I ran into another male's arms, Jason's arms. While my husband was working hard and neglecting me, I used to fight a lot with him, And he always told me to understand him and show a little support to him because he had not changed. He was always the same person, and he still loved me a lot, but things were not easy. I used to ask him to come on trips with me and go out, and he would say no, and I would go everywhere alone and meet new people. During one of those trips, I met Jason, a charismatic artist full of life, who also gave colors to my life. We didn't start an affair right away. Instead, we became friends. We would meet each other often, go out for drinks or take trips together. We would talk a lot about life and art. He made me feel excited again about different things, and he brought back the life in me. It was like I started feeling happy again, and I started being more creative and working more because, as you may think, my work is all about being creative. I started smiling again, but I didn't want to cheat on my husband. I didn't want to break my values and principles, and I still loved him, but I didn't know how to save our marriage and how to make him understand that life was not just about work. Ben had forgotten how to live while he was working so hard. It felt like work was the love of his life. When I first started seeing Jason, I didn't have anything to hide, and I never went out for too long and always told my husband I was with friends, but I never mentioned Jason. It felt like if I told Ben about him, he would read my mind and eyes and understand how I was feeling, or he would know that we had a vibe that was more than friendship. I have never been very good with words, so I hope I am explaining everything well. But Jason was my little secret, and instead of mentioning his name, I would just say a friend. My husband didn't get jealous because he was too focused on his job to notice what I was doing, or at least that is what I thought, because the story will reveal how he had been very attentive to every action of mine, and he planned his revenge according to them. Like I said, I didn't want to cheat on my husband, even if Jason started flirting with me and sending me sweet messages and notes or roses to work. I tried to keep him in the friend zone until the day of our anniversary. I cheated on my husband for the first time on the day of our 4th anniversary. That day he went to his office. Meanwhile, I asked for a day off because I wanted to organize a beautiful romantic date for the two of us. Maybe that would bring back the sparkle of our relationship and also the passion because he had been showing very cold even in bed. I forgot to mention that we didn't have sex like before. We did it once in a while, but it felt cold. There was no passion left between us. I forgot what an orgasm was, and he would not ask me how it felt anymore. So yeah, let's go back to our anniversary day. As Ben went to his office, I went out shopping for a special dress for the night. I had also reserved a table at our favorite restaurant, and I decorated our bedroom with petals of roses and everything. I also bought a special pair of lingerie to please him. While shopping and getting everything ready, I was waiting for him to write me a message about our anniversary or just call me and say happy anniversary, but he didn't. Neither did he message me, nor did he call. To be honest, I really felt hurt, but then I decided to send him a message and let him know I had made a reservation for that night. It had been an hour until he replied, "Oh, I am sorry I can't make it for tonight. I am going to be late. I will be working. Can you cancel the reservation?" So he had forgotten about our anniversary. I felt really hurt, and then I decided to do something else. I messaged Jason and invited him to come with me at the reservation, and he was happy to come. So I went home, and I didn't touch a thing in our bedroom. I wanted him to see what I had done. I took a shower and got ready for the night. I wore the red revealing dress that I had bought. It made me feel very hot and sexy, and in a delicate feminine way, it would show parts of my body, a little of my breast and one of my thighs. I loved how I looked. I was also feeling so confident. I knew what I was doing, and I knew why I was wearing that red dress, and it definitely was not for my husband. I was going to show him what I was capable of doing, and I would set myself free. I knew I liked Jason, and I felt that vibe between me and the artist boy. That is what I used to call him. So I was going to do it. I would surrender myself to him. Anyway, I went on, and I put my makeup on, and I was thinking it had been a long time since I last wore makeup. I had spent so much time feeling sad. I put on my red lipstick, and time had passed so fast that I was late. When I went downstairs, I noticed that my husband had come earlier. He asked me where I was going, and I told him that I was going to celebrate our 4th anniversary with my friend since he forgot about it. He told me he was sorry and he wanted to come with me. but I didn't want him to anymore because I had invited Jason and he forgot about our anniversary. I started shouting and telling him everything that I had been doing all day, and then he screamed back, telling me how suffocating I was and I never understood him. He told me, "You are selfish. All you can think about is yourself and your damn creativity. Have you tried to stop for a moment and put yourself in my shoes? No, because you don't want to. You only care about yourself. Go on and do your thing." His words cut me deep like a knife. I felt tears coming out of my eyes, and I tried to stop them. It wasn't the first time he was telling me that I was selfish, but this was too much. Maybe he was right, but he really hurt me to my core. I didn't say a word to him. Instead, I went out and slammed the door, and it felt so good. But after I slammed the door and I went out in my revealing dress, he planned revenge, which came slowly day by day. It was very strategic and very well planned. It was cold. It would kill me and turn my life upside down. Anyway, Ben had pushed me too far, and I was going to cheat on him with Jason. I was very angry when I went out, but when I met Jason, it felt like my anger calmed down. His smile made me smile, and as soon as I saw him, I forgot about what I went through at home. He was there before me. Jason was all a gentleman. He was a sculptor with a disarming smile and a confidence that drove me towards him. He kissed my hand and gave me the world. Suddenly, I was feeling seen again. I was feeling special again. It was a gentle kiss, but it made my body tremble. We sat and talked there for hours until we noticed that we were the last people in the restaurant. He complimented me a lot about my look and my dress. He told me that I looked like a queen, and he continued saying that I owned him. Oh, he was so romantic. He reminded me of how romantic Ben was, and for a moment my smile faded. I was wondering what I was doing. How could I do that to Ben? But it was too late because Jason's eyes and smile had put a spell on me. But I forgot one thing. I forgot that I told the name of the restaurant to Ben. I didn't think he would come after me and see with his eyes what I was doing. Ben did come after me, and he saw everything. He even took pictures of me and Jason. He took pictures of him kissing my hand, but I would find this out later on. After having dinner, I found myself going to Jason's apartment while he was holding my hand tight. His fingers were on mine, and after a long time I was feeling loved again. I was feeling the sparkle and the light inside of me again. We went to Jason's apartment, a modern one that was decorated carefully by a sculptor. It felt like home there, to be honest. His apartment was away from away from the building where Ben worked, and I didn't quite understand what I was doing until I entered that apartment. I was experiencing a range of emotions, guys. I wanted to blame Ben for what I was doing, but I was the one to blame. Nothing justified what I was doing. A sense of guilt started rising inside of me, and I tried to dim it, but at the same time I was feeling free and happy. Jason poured 2 glasses of red wine and came near me. "Cheers for us," he said, and we took a sip of wine. Then he took my glass and let it on the table and started kissing my neck, and he slowly came to my lips. It felt so good, and he made me feel so horny. The temptation to be with him was growing and growing, and I could not resist him. But it seemed like he had no hurry to reach the final part, because his gestures were slow. He was touching me like he didn't want to miss an inch of my body. But as he continued touching and kissing me, the sense of guilt reached the limit, and I told him, I shouldn't be here. Actually, I didn't want to go. I wanted him to make me stay, and that is what he did. He acted like I said nothing and kept kissing and touching my body. I was feeling his hand as he was trying to undress me. I could feel the heat of his body, the desire between us, and then he whispered in my ear, "There is no other place you would want to be but here. Just you and me. No expectation and no pressure. It's just us." Then he pulled me closer to his body and I could not resist him. I let myself sink into him. I let myself enjoy the moment and forget about everything, and nothing felt more right in that moment. Jason took my hand and led my way to his bedroom. That night we had amazing sex and an amazing time. It felt like it wasn't just about sex. We both felt a connection. Maybe it was the connection that made sex amazing. Also, we talked about many things, like art, life, and us. I told him a little about my husband. the way our relationship had turned out, and he asked me, "Why don't you leave him?" I replied that it wasn't that easy, but actually I was so confused, I didn't know what I felt anymore. My mind was reminding me of the old times when with Ben, everything was perfect, and look at us now. Jason did not pressure me anymore about that question. Then we fell asleep, and in the next morning, I noticed I had fallen asleep there. I had to go home. My husband would have understood what I had been up to. I went immediately home, and he was waiting there, just looking in the window and drinking coffee. As soon as I opened the door, he asked without turning his face on me, "You are back?" "Yes," I replied. Then he asked me if I did have fun. He didn't look at me, but his voice came out so cold and so mad. I felt like he knew everything, and I was not wrong because he actually knew. He didn't say a word to me. He didn't ask where I slept. He was not stupid. Of course he knew. That was the first night that he slept on the sofa. We used to fight a lot even in the past, but we never slept apart. This was the first time he was sleeping alone. He knew everything. Day by day he started getting colder, and he would never ask me about a thing. Also, he would not talk to me, only in case it was necessary. During this time I still was meeting Jason. I was feeling guilty all the time, but I could not stop seeing him. Sex was great, and we would talk for hours. One day he asked me if I decided to leave my husband. Was I going to be his completely? And I really didn't know what to say. Yeah, I felt a connection with him, but when he asked me that question, I was alarmed. I could not imagine my life without my husband. The sense of guilt in me was always there and would not go away, not just for a moment. Jason kept writing me sweet messages, and like I said, cheating can never be a secret. I was not being careful enough. I was leaving my phone unlocked everywhere. And one day I came out of the bathroom and found my husband with my phone in his hands, and he said, "You are not careful, leaving your phone unlocked everywhere, huh?" I didn't reply. I just got my phone from his hands. I saw that Jason had written me a message telling me, "I can't stop thinking about you. When can we repeat it?" I was shocked. Maybe my husband had read it. Maybe he knew, and maybe he read everything, but he didn't tell me anything. We were living together, but it was a tense situation. He was always angry and always cold. He started sleeping on the couch more than before. Also, Ben started spending more nights out, and when I used to ask him, he would only tell me, "Do you really care?" I thought things would get better with time, and we could be like before, but it was not possible because I was also meeting Jason. I was going to his apartment more often. We would have sex and talk about life or art. He always asked me to leave Ben because he didn't make me happy, but I was not brave enough, and I guess I didn't want to live a life without him. As days went by, things started getting more difficult for me, and it was also affecting my work capacity. I couldn't concentrate, and I could not create new designs. There was something wrong with me. I couldn't concentrate on making it anymore. My life was a total mess. Jason continued to try and make my life better. He would spontaneously send me flowers, roses, and sweet notes, and every day I wake up with a sweet message from him. He was such a romantic guy. Ben had been like that before too, but now he wasn't. Every day and more, I doubted his attitude, and I was thinking that he knew everything about my affair. Still, I didn't stop my relationship with Jason, because during those days, he was the one that made me happy with his small gestures. And with him, it wasn't all about sex, because he took care of me. He really did. When I was with Jason, I forgot about Ben and his cold attitude. Honestly, we were strangers now. Ben before liked to cook, and he used to cook for us very often. One day I came home from work and I found him cooking. I hoped my old Ben was back, but he wasn't. I went in and I asked him what the good odor was. He replied that he was cooking vegetables for himself and I could eat a leftover pizza that was in the fridge. How rude could he get? He hurt my feelings. But okay, I ate the leftover pizza from the fridge and I went to bed. And he again slept on the sofa. The next morning, I asked him why he was not sleeping in the bed with me, and he told me, "Oh, I just like the sofa more." His voice was colder and indifferent. Ben also started being more observational. I could catch him watching me or my phone in a very observant way. I was worried sometimes about what he was going to do, and sometimes I thought he knew everything, and sometimes I thought that he didn't know anything. Anyway, he was not confronting me, but he was being observant and very cold day by day. Then things started to happen. His revenge started to happen. Firstly, I noticed that a pair of earrings that Ben had gifted me had disappeared. I asked him if he had seen them around, and he told me that this happens when I don't care about my husband, so he literally told me that I didn't care about him, and I searched everywhere for those earrings and I didn't find them. I thought I was going crazy. Then Ben disappeared all of our pictures together. I mean all of them, but they were our memories together. There were also pictures of our wedding, but he didn't care. It was like he was doing everything to hurt me. He was doing everything on purpose, and yeah, he was hurting me. I asked, where did all of our pictures go? He was still cold and different. He told me he put them away because he did not like them anymore. At that moment, I understood that he was disappearing from his life slowly. Like I said, his revenge was slow, cold, and well planned. He was going to kill me slowly. When I started noticing those actions, I wanted to end it with Jason, but he would not give up on me. He would still write to me every day and send sweet notes to me, or even roses. I didn't know that my husband could be such a calculating person. I started to find it out when he started his revenge on me. Well, after those actions, his behavior started changing again. I mean, he was still cold and I could not understand him, but he was kind of more calm. He started talking to me more. He had not changed at all, actually. He was just planning revenge. It wasn't enough for him to leave me. He had to destroy my entire life. The other step of his revenge was destroying my career. One day I went home and I found him on my laptop. It looked so strange to me that he was doing that. Ben would never have done that in the past. So I asked him, "What are you doing on my laptop?" He said he was just doing an update to my computer. I believed him, but later I would find out that it was not true. This was part of his revenge. He was not doing an update to my computer. That night he even acted kind with me. He was kinder than other days. He even got us 2 foods from outside. Little did I know that it was the calm before the storm. I thought things were changing. I thought we could be back like before, and he would be my old Ben, the romantic one who took care so much about me, the person I would run to for everything. I could rely on him for everything. Every time something happened to me, I could run to him and say everything. He was always there to support me or advise me. I felt so strange now that he was not the person I would run to. I could not even ask him for advice because he was now this cold person I didn't know anymore. And it hurt my feelings, but I knew that it was not his fault to begin with. It was mine. I cheated on him first, and maybe he had found out. But he was not just disappearing me from his life. He wanted to hurt me, and he wanted to destroy my life. The bomb was about to explode. At this point, I and Jason were still together. He would not give up on me, and I did not give up on him, because the situation at home kept being very tense and I needed to escape. Jason was my escape, and the hours I stayed there with him, I felt happy. Now he was the person I relied on, or maybe he was just the person that I was using to escape from the situation me and my husband were in. Things kept being the same until the day I went to work, and I was really trying to work and create something when I really felt hopeless. While I was trying to work, my boss came into my office and he didn't even knock. That meant that he was furious. He was really mad, and he had many letters in his hands. He came in and threw them all in my desk, and he started screaming. I had never seen him this mad before. Something very bad had happened, and yeah, I was right. All those letters were emails sent from me to our clients, and on those emails I was flirting with them, which I had not done. My boss was screaming and asking how I could do that. By doing this, I had broken the company policy and rules, so he had to fire me. I swore to him that I didn't do that, but all those emails were written from my email and had no proof that I didn't do that. In his eyes, I was the one that did it. So finally I cried and prayed for him not to fire me because I needed the job, but he didn't accept it. He was furious, and he told me he had to fire me. I had broken the rules, and I could not work there anymore. I was broken. I loved that job, and besides, It was not easy to find a new job. What would I do, and how did it happen? How were all those emails sent from my email? Then I was thinking, and I remembered my husband was doing something on my laptop. Now I knew who did it, but I could not change it. Those emails were all sent from my email address, and I was flirting with our clients. He was destroying my life, and he was doing it on purpose. It was time for me to confront him about everything, but I didn't know how I would do that. I had to do it anyway. I needed to be calm when doing it. That is why I thought that I needed a 2-day trip to calm my mind and decide what I was going to do. I was really mad at my husband, but I could not blame him. Ben had planned everything since the beginning in a very strategic and calculated way. To make this trip happen, I needed money. So I went to the bank to withdraw some money from our joint bank account. I know you may be thinking that it is not very smart of me doing that, but I needed it to take care of my mental health and then come back and give it an end. It was very stupid of me because during those times I needed to save money for my future. I didn't have a job anymore. I was not thinking right. But anyway, you won't believe what happened to the bank. My husband had withdrawn all the money from our joint bank account. It was empty. It was all empty. I was going crazy, and I was losing my mind. How could he do that? Now I was left with no money and no job, and certainly without a house because Ben was going to kick me out after our confrontation. I didn't go home straight after that because I wanted to clear my mind. So I went to a park there and smoked a cigarette while thinking about my life. It was turned upside down, and I was the one that did it. I cheated on my husband with Jason. I could not support and understand him when he needed me, and now he was taking his revenge on her. He was right to do that. He wanted me to feel the same way he felt while I did things behind his back. While I was thinking, Jason called me. I saw the phone, and I decided not to answer. I didn't want to tell him what was going on. I didn't want to talk to anyone, to be honest. I had this pain in my chest that I couldn't explain. I stayed there for around 2 hours, just smoking, crying, and thinking about my life and how I was going to confront my husband. But I had to go back home. Meanwhile, Jason sent me a message telling me he missed me, and he also asked him if everything was all right. I still didn't reply. Instead, I turned off my phone and I went back home. My husband was drinking a glass of wine in front of the TV. It was like he knew I would come in that moment, like he was waiting for that moment. I was crying, and I asked him why, and with a smile on his face, he said, "I wanted you to know how it feels to be stabbed in the back." It was like he enjoyed watching me like that, but he continued, "Look, you don't have to go away right away." He was acting like he was doing me a favor. He said we were going to meet his family at a dinner they had organized for tomorrow night. I asked how he knew about what I did, and he told me everything that he had, the photos from the first date, the one on our anniversary. He had screenshots of my conversations with Jason and everything, so he had been going through my phone. He knew everything from the beginning. He had just been planning his revenge since the day I went out in my revealing dress, and I slammed the door after me. He looked very calm but hurt. I could see he was hurt. Then he said, "Do you understand now what you did to me?" We were done, and I immediately started looking online for a small apartment because I didn't want to go back to my parents' home. But I could not afford an apartment. Maybe Ben would give me a second chance, I thought, because he wanted to go with me to the dinner. But then I found out this was a part of his revenge. I didn't sleep that night. I felt so guilty and broke. I had destroyed my life. Anyway, guys, the dinner came and went, and before starting to eat, Ben said he had an announcement to make. So he stood up and said, "Hey everyone, attention, I have an announcement to make." Then he continued, "Emma and I are getting divorced." Tears fell from my eyes, and this was his final revenge. He wanted to embarrass me in front of everyone, and he did it. I started crying, and I could not stop. I went near him, and while he was smiling and I was crying, I told him he was a horrible person, and he told me to get my things out of his apartment because he was done with me. That was it. I had to go somewhere from that night after he destroyed my life and humiliated me in front of everyone. I didn't want to go to my parents, so I called Jason, and he said I could go to his apartment. I tried to take the most essential things, and I went there. It was not the right thing to do, maybe, but I didn't have a place to go. My parents lived a little farther away, and it was late, and besides, I didn't want to go there yet. So, yeah, this is the story of how I destroyed my life, guys. Please never do what I did. Love and Emma. Update. Hi, Reddit guys, it's me, Emma, again. I am back here for a short update. After the traumatic story of my life, here I am, struggling to find a job and living with my parents. Yeah, I went back with my parents. I broke up with Jason because it all started as an affair, and it would always remind me of what I did to Ben. Besides, I didn't love him. It was not love. I talked to him, and he agreed to end things there. So the next day I took my things and went to my parents' home. Ben's revenge left me devastated, and I am still like that. I have tried to meet Ben or contact him just to say I am really sorry, but he blocked me everywhere. I don't know if I will ever forgive myself for what I did and how things turned out. His revenge was strategic and tough, and that is why I'm struggling to stay strong. This is it, guys. The story of life ends here. Thank you everyone for reading it and for every comment or piece of advice. Wishing you all the best. Love, Emma.